Nowadays, when you hear the word Daredevil, most people might think about a blind lawyer who's also an acrobat, but not always Ben Affleck. Does that make sense to you? Because it's a Marvel character. It should. But there was once a time in our great country when the grass was greener, I was a young man, everyone was happy, and daredevils captured the public's astonishment. One of the reasons why is because maybe these reckless thrill seekers might actually die, and you could see it on TV. Or maybe it was just the fun of seeing someone attempt something so crazy that we know we'd never do it ourselves. So let's take a look at 5 of these craziest daredevils, from wingwalkers to speedsters to wall crawlers. What's a wingwalker, you might ask? Oh, just someone who climbed out of the plane's cockpit so they could do handstands on the wings, as you do. Army pilot Ormer Locklear was one of the first, and he got the wing-walking bug after he climbed out to fix a broken radiator midair and said, "This is so much fun." In fact, his commanding officers noticed that his stunts boosted morale, so they even encouraged him to keep it up, believe it or not. Locklear then became a professional wing-walker when he was honorably discharged and began working in aerial shows. His 2 craziest wing stunts were to hang from a ladder by his teeth, no thank you, and to walk from one plane to another in mid-flight, also no thank you. And surprise! While performing a wing-walking stunt, Locklear was sadly killed. And then in 1936, the U.S. government got involved and said, you know what, no more wing-walking unless you're above 1,500 feet, because it's safer up there. Actually, that doesn't make any sense. And it was a total bummer since the audience on the ground couldn't see any of the action so high up. So that's probably why they made it that high up. Do you like to drive fast like a cool guy? I don't, because I'm not cool. But I tell you who did, Donald Campbell. He once simultaneously held the world records for both land and water speed. And surprise! While trying to break his own record in 1967, Campbell was sadly killed. His jet-powered boat turned nose up and shot 50 feet up into the air, traveling at 300 miles per hour. Upon impact with the water, the boat basically disintegrated, instantly killing Campbell. What was left of his remains were undiscovered for almost 40 years. Niagara Falls. Beautiful, gorgeous, all that good stuff. But did you know it used to be a hot destination to watch daredevilry? Some people would climb into barrels and roll over the waterfall. That's kind of old hat though. So they tried to one-up each other. Others performed tightrope acts like Jean-Francois Gravelot. He was known as the Great Blondine. And William Leonard Hunt. He was known as the Great Farini. They're all so great. Killer names, guys. These rivals challenged each other to increasingly audacious tightrope stunts. If Blondine carried his manager out on his back, Farini would bring in a second rope and lower himself down into a tour boat, drink a glass of wine, then climb back up again. If Blondine carried a stove out and cooked an omelet, which he did, Farini would bring a wash tub and do his laundry. Yeesh. And surprise! Oh wait, actually, fine. Neither one of these guys actually died doing this. That's great news.
I said that I'd never jump again. That was the pain in my body overpowering the brains that I'm supposed to have in my head.
Surely, people, you have heard of possibly the greatest daredevil in the history of daredevilry, Robert Craig Evel Knievel. And that is spelled E-V-E-L, because what's more E-V-I-L than poor spelling? So weird. He was one of my heroes, though, when I was a kid, I gotta tell you. Knievel got his real start when he opened a Honda motorcycle dealership, and turns out he didn't sell a lot of motorcycles, so he couldn't support his family. So he did what any desperate businessman would do. He went out, bought 2 mountain lions and a bunch of rattlesnakes and a 20-foot jump ramp. Then he staged his own motorcycle stunt show to drum up business. Unfortunately, he came up a little bit short and actually landed on the rattlesnakes. But wait, it actually gets worse. Once he developed a huge following, Knievel tried to jump 151 feet over the fountain at Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas. I, as a young child, watched it live on television. He cleared the jump but landed badly, which is what we all wanted, and tumbled over the handlebars into the adjacent parking lot. This landed him 29 very peaceful days in the hospital. Another time he tried to jump the jet-powered rocket cycle over Snake River Canyon. I watched that one too, but his parachute deployed early and he crashed, well, he sort of float crashed to the ground. Very gentle. Knievel holds the record for the most broken bones in his body, and he had so many metal plates that he even started breaking those. And then, surprise, he passed away in 2007 from diabetes and complications of an incurable lung condition. Very sad, but it wasn't from daredevilry. And finally, we've got Alain Robert, who brings us full circle back to superhero territory. That's because he's nicknamed the Real Spiderman. Roberts is an urban free climber who scales skyscrapers just like Spiderman with his bare hands and no safety measures. He actually used to get arrested for these unauthorized descents because it's illegal, but once word got out how many people were paying attention, they loved it, and companies actually paid him to climb their tall buildings. They said, "Spiderman, get over here. Here's some money. Climb that thing." And he did it. To date, he's scaled more than 70 skyscrapers, usually raising money for charity at this point, and from his sponsors and advertisers. Pretty neat. And surprise! Well, actually, he didn't die doing it either. Although he has had some relatively minor falls here and there. As of this recording, Roberts is still alive. Go Spiderman! So, what have we learned today, people? Let's talk about it. Apparently, daredevils do not always die horribly, which is good for them. But I've got to know, who is your favorite daredevil? Felix Baumgartner? Steve O? Matt Murdock? This weird skeleton behind me? Let us know in the comments how about it. And for more of the history of these reckless performances, check out my very own original article, How Daredevils Work, on HowStuffWorks.com.